Hey guys, let's build a full-stack chat app using Next.js and Firebase. So the first thing that we're going to do is install Next.js. We are going to write npx create next app at latest space dot. I'm going to say yes for TypeScript, yes lead, tailwind CSS, yes, yes, yes for turbo pack, and now I do not want to customize the import alias. So now that we have created our project, I'm going to run npm run dev. Let's open this link. And as you can see, we have a working Next.js project. The next step is to open the public folder and delete all the unnecessary files. Then let's go to source, page.ts, and let's go ahead and remove everything inside the main tag. Let's also go ahead and clean our class name so that we can start building from scratch. I'm going to write hello world. Let's remove the import at the top. And now let's go ahead and set up Firebase. We're going to go to this link, console.firebase.google.com, and let's hit create the first project. Let's name it FlashStack Chat Tutorial. Hit continue. I'm going to hit continue, disable this, and hit create project. Once Firebase has finished setting up, let's click continue one more time. Now that the project is ready, let's close Gemini and let's expand the left sidebar by clicking the arrow on the bottom. Next, go to build, authentication, and on the top here, let's click on get started. Once it loads, let's click on Google under additional providers. And let's toggle the switch to enable it. Let's enter your app name. This is what users will see when authenticating. I'm going to name it FlashStack Chat Tutorial, and let's also select the support email for the project and hit save. Google Authentication is now successfully enabled in Firebase. Next, let's head over to Firestore database, and on the top, let's hit create database. I'm going to choose Europe here since it's closer to me. And let's hit start in test mode. Once it finishes, we're good to go. Let's go back to project overview. And let's hit the web icon. Give your app a name and then hit register app. Let's open a new terminal in our VS Code. And let's copy this code here. npm install Firebase. Next, click on package.json. In the File Explorer, click New File, and let's name it firebase.ts. Let's go back to Firebase, click the button to copy the full configuration code and paste it here. This code works fine, but we can do better. Let's say const app equals getApps dot length question mark getApps of 0 else initialize app with the Firebase config. What this does is actually check if we have a running app. If not, we are going to initialize one. Next, let's write const out get out of app. And I can see that sometimes this Firebase import is not working automatically, so I'm gonna have to write it myself at the top. Okay, now this works fine. Let's go ahead and initialize our DB as well. Const DB equals get FlashStore. Also import this from import get FireStore from Firebase Firestore. Okay, and let's call it with the app. Now let's just export this out and DB in order to be able to use them in other components. Now let's go back to our source folder and create a new folder. Let's call it component. Inside it, let's create a file named signin.tsx. To quickly generate a React boilerplate, I recommend installing the ES7 React Redux Snippets extension. Go to Extensions, search for React Snippet, and it should be the first one. This step is optional. You can always write the code manually if you prefer to. Okay, so back in the code, I'm going to type array-fce and hit tab. The boilerplate is added automatically. Let's remove the React import and go to page.tsx. Here we want to check if the user is authenticated. If they are, we'll display the chat. But first of all, let's go to layout and let's create the header. I'm gonna give it a nice title like FlashStack chat. Okay, let's give it a bit of styling though. We're going to use Tailwind for this. I'm gonna say with full, text center, text to Excel, and a padding of 2. Okay, looks good to me. Let's go back to page.tsx. First of all, we need to mark this component with use client since we are using hooks. Next, let's go ahead and create a user state. So I'm gonna say const user set user is equal to set state. And let's initialize this with null. Next, we are going to add a use effect with an empty dependency array. This means that the code will run only when the component mounts. Let's go ahead and write const unsubscribe equals on auth state changed, which is imported from Firebase. Let's call our auth. And let's get our Firebase user. With this user, we are going to say set user Firebase user. Over here, you can see that we actually have a TypeScript error. So we need to specify the state type as user or null. You can see we can import the user type from Firebase auth. Okay, now that error is gone. We can finally return an anonymous cleanup function that calls unsubscribe. Now that we know whether the user is authenticated, let's add a conditional rendering. I'm going to say user, question mark, chat app, which we are going to create in a second. Else, we are going to render the sign-in component. Let's create the chat app component and let's import the sign-in component. Chat app.tsx. Let's go array-fc and let's go back and actually import it. As you can see, we are now saying sign in because we are not signed in. So let's clean up the sign-in component a bit. And let's go ahead and also mark it as a use client. Let's go ahead and add a button. And I'm going to say sign in with Google. Give it a class name first, rounded full, and sign in with Google. Let's give it a border. Let's give it some padding x of 2, padding y of 2. And let's also give it a cursor pointer. Okay, this looks good. And for the parent component now, just give it the flex call, and item center. Awesome. Now let's make the button functional. Let's add an on click on this button. And let's call it handle signing. Let's go ahead and create this function. Handle sign-in is going to be an asynchronous function. Let's add a try catch block. Let's first handle the catch. Let's take the error and console error. Now in the try block, just go ahead and write const provider equals new Google Auth provider, which is imported from Firebase Auth. Let's go ahead and say wait, sign in with pop-up, which is also imported from Firebase Auth. And let's give it as parameters or auth, which we are importing from the Firebase file, and then our provider, which we just created above. Let's go ahead and test it. Now, once we click the button, Firebase will prompt us to authenticate. After signing in, as you can see, we now see the chat app component. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually edit this chat app component. You're gonna clean it up a bit, and let's add a button for the sign out functionality. I'm going to say sign out. Actually, let's just copy this sign in button and edit it so we don't have to add all the class names again. So we had, instead of handle sign in, we're going to have handle sign out. And instead of sign in with Google, I'm just gonna say sign out. Let's go ahead and create this function now. This is going to be called const handle sign out is equal to an async function. And this is much simpler than the login. We are just going to say await, sign out, and let's pass in the auth. Now we can sign out and we can sign back in. Moving on, let's create a new chat container file. I'm going to write chat container here. And let's go ahead and actually create it. Chat container.tsx, arrayfce. Let's go back and import it. Now let's give the parent a class name of flex call, get to, mx auto, max width of 7xl, and item center. The button is a bit big, so let's actually just give it a width of fit. Let's also add the item center that we forgot, and now everything is centered perfectly. Beautiful. Let's go ahead in chat container. And we're going to add a few class names for this chat container. We're going to say border. Let me just see what it shows. Okay. Let's go ahead and say width full. I'm going to give it a custom height of 600 pixels, a padding of 4, and let's say rounded 3xl. Okay, this looks decent to me. Below it, let's actually add our text input. And If I can find it, let's just add a placeholder to see it. Okay, here it is. Perfect. Let's write some class name. Okay, the width will be 300 pixels. Let's make it 500. Let's give it some padding X of 4, padding Y of 2. Okay, this looks good, but let's actually cut the class name from here, create another div, and let's put the input inside this div. Now let's give the class name to this parent div. And to the input, we are going to give another class name. But for now, let's add the border back. Okay, for the input, I'm going to say class name with full. And actually, we should have the padding on the input. Let's also create the button to send the actual chat. And as you can see, we should also give this some flex. Let's go to the button, add the class name of px4, py2. Just give it a background of indigo 700. And let's also make the text white. And let's also give it a cursor of pointer. Let's mark this component with useClient. And let's create a state for the input text. So input text, set input text is equal to useState, and let's initialize it with an empty string. Now on the input, all we have to do is set the value to this input text. And let's say on change, we're going to take E and set input text to e.target.value. Now we can type into the input. All right. So now that we can type messages, let's go back to our Firestore database. This is where we'll save our chat data. So let's go to our page.tsx. We need the user to be in the chat app as well. So I'm just going to pass it down as a prop. Now, in our chat app, let's make sure to receive this prop. Let's just go ahead and log it so that we can see the user data. This is the user data that comes from Firestore, and it contains display name, email, photo URL, all the data that we need. Let's first of all try to display the user's photo in our UI. On the send button, I'm going to add an on-click handler. Let's call it handle send message. Let's create the handle send message as an asynchronous function. Let's create the try catch block, and let's make sure to handle the errors. Inside the try block, we are going to use Firestore's addDoc function. I'm going to say await addDoc. The first parameter is a reference to the collection that we want. So I'm going to say collection, which is also imported from Firestore. But first of all, let's say db, and then Our database should be called messages. Then I'm going to write comma in the object that we actually want to save. First of all, we are going to need a message, which is the current input text. Then an user email, which we can get from user.email right here. So it's user.email. So I'm going to say user email is coming from user.email. Then we are going to need the user picture, which is coming from let's see, photo URL. Then we are going to need the username. So let's say username is user.displayname. Now that we have this, let's go ahead and try saving a message. I see there's a TypeScript error here. Let's make sure to import the user type from Firebase. Okay, now the error is gone. Perfect. Let's go ahead and send a message. Let me just fix my screen here. Okay. So as you can see, I'm going to refresh. We have no data in our Firestore. Let's type something. My new message. And let's hit send. If we go back to Firestore, hit refresh, you should see a new messages collection with documents containing all the data we saved. Now that saving messages works, let's improve it by saving the message timestamp as well. This is where we are going to show our data in the chat container. Okay, so in order to save the date, I'm going to say date is equal to server timestamp, which is coming from Firestore. Make sure to add a parenthesis as this is a function. This timestamp is generated on the server to avoid time zone issues between different users. Let's send the message now. And as you can see, we also have the date up here. As you can see, that after we hit send, our input text doesn't clear automatically. To fix this, right after successfully adding the new document to Firestore, we simply call setInputText and set it back to an empty string. While we're at it, let's also prevent users from clicking the send button multiple times while the message is being sent. I'm going to say const loading, set loading, and set it equals to a use state of false. Now, on our send button, after the on click, let's say disabled equals to loading. Let's also add some styling. Disabled, I want the background to be a gray 600 or 500 maybe. Let's also add disabled cursor not allowed to show the proper cursor. Now, while the message is being sent, the send button is disabled and cannot be clicked again. As you can see over here, we cannot click the send button. Let's set it back to false. Now, before trying to add the doc, let's actually set it to true. And let's add the finally block and set it back to false. Now, while a message is being sent, the send button is disabled and cannot be clicked again. With that done, let's delete any existing messages in Firestore that don't have the date. So I think it was the last one, correct. Delete document. All right, so right now we need to fetch messages from Firestore. Let's go to our chat container. And let's start by making it a use client. And let's create the use state for the messages. Const messages, set messages. It's going to be a use state, and let's initialize it with an empty array. We're going to create a use effect to make sure we actually get the data. Make sure to put this empty array here so it only runs on the mount. And let's create our first query. Const q equals query collection. Let's give our connection, so it's DB, and then messages. Let's add a comma, and then we can add a filter to it. I'm going to say ordered by, and I'm going to say date ascending. Let's also import our DB. So this query is going to fetch the document ordered by the date. Then let's write on snapshot. Let's use the query that we created. And let's get the snapshot itself. Over here, we're gonna say const messages equals snapshot dot docs dot map. And then let's say for each document, we want to return an object. So inside it, we're going to say ID is doc.id, and then we're just going to get doc.data spread out. So this is all the data that the document has. Now that we have this, we can go ahead and say set messages. As you can see, we have a TypeScript error. This is because TypeScript doesn't know what the server will return from doc.data. So let's go ahead and create the type for the message. I'm going to say type messages is equal to an object. You can just get the data from the function that we use to add the document. I'm just going to copy all these keys here. Let's paste them in the type. So this message is a string, this is a string, this is a string, this is also a string, and the date is a timestamp, which we import from Firestore. So now let's say that this use state is either messages, it's a messages array. For this, let's also cast this snapshot data as a messages array. Now, this is a listener, so we want to make sure that we delete it after the component unmounts. So I'm going to store it in a variable, constant subscribe, and then we are going to return an anonymous function that just calls this unsubscribe. This ensures that the listener is removed when the component unmounts. Now that we have the messages, let's go ahead and display them. Let's go ahead and map over the messages array, and for each message, for now, let's just return a span, and inside it, let's say message.message. We are also going to need a key prop, so the key is going to be message.id. Let's go ahead and see if this works. I'm going to refresh my browser, and as you can see, we have the messages that are coming straight from Firestore. Let's go ahead and actually structure this a bit better. So instead of having this message right here, I'm going to create a message component. Let's give it the message as message. And let's also give it the key again, message.id. Okay, let's go ahead and create this message.tsx. I'm going to say array.ce. We are getting the message, and we already know that we are going to need the type for this. So let's go back and export this type from the other component. I'm going to also import messages here. And over here, we're going to say message is of type message. For some reason, I cannot import it. Let's check again. Oh, I called it messages. All right. Now I can import it. And now it's working. So inside the div, let's go ahead and try it. I'm going to say message.message. And let's see if it works the same as before. It does indeed. Now, we know that we don't only want to show the message, we want to show more than that. So let's go ahead and do it. Above the message, I'm going to render an image from Next.js. I'm going to give it a source, which is going to be message.userPicture. I'm going to give it a width. For now, let's do 40. Height 40. Let's give it a node of message.username. I'm going to import the image from Next.js. And as you can see, we have an error. Invalid source props. This is because Next.js doesn't allow unknown URLs in our application. So when it's trying to get the image from Google, it doesn't work. For this, we need to go to next.config.js. And inside this config, let's say images, remote patterns. And over here, we are going to write protocol and give it a string of HTTPS. And then host name is going to be the other part of the URL. Now, once you do this, you will see that Next.js has closed. So we need to run the development server again. If we now refresh, you can see the images get fetched correctly. Awesome. So this is going to be the image from the Google account that you are signed in with. Let's go back to our chat container and give it a bit of more class names. I'm gonna say flex call, gap2 in order to space the messages a bit. Let's go inside the message itself. And let's give another class name. We want to make this flex, give it a gap of 1. I'm gonna say item center. And the weight should actually be 30. Now, instead of this, just having this right here, I think I like it better actually with the width and height being set to 40. So let's go ahead and create another div. Inside it, we are going to create a span with the message.message. After it, we're going to create another span and we're going to say message.date, .toDate, call this function and to locale string and call this function as well. As you can see, we now have the message, we have the date with the time. Let's give it a class name of flex call, so that we see both the message and the date one under another. Let's give some styling to the date because I don't want it to be the same. Let's give it a text display. Yeah, text display 500 straight and text mode. This looks pretty good to me. Let's go ahead and write another message. Hello world, hit send. And if, as you can see, we have an error. If we go back and check the issue, you see that it doesn't know something about date. So maybe this is because we don't have the message.date. So let's add some question marks. Yes, indeed, we do not get the error anymore. Okay, but what is a chat with only one person? This is not something nice. So let's go ahead and open up a different browser. I'm going to log in again. Let's go to localhost, login. I'm going to select my personal account. Okay, we are logged in. Let's see what happens if we send a new message. Let's put them side by side. And I'm going to send a message. Hey there. As you can see, our message gets instantly populated in the chat container. This is great. But now let's go ahead and actually make sure to know which one is our message. So let's differentiate our messages from other people's messages. Let's go ahead in our chat app and first of all, remove the console log. And next, we actually need to go to page.tsx and copy the user. Now let's make it back to the message.tsx and paste it here as well. Let's make sure we have all the imports. So let me just correctly indent this. Import the use effect. Import everything just like in the other file. The type as well. And let's also not forget to make this a use client since we're using hooks. Okay, so now that we know what the user is, we can go ahead and do something nice. I'm going to say const is user owner of message. So are we the owner of the message that is being displayed or not? So if the user.email is equal to message.user email, that means that we are the user and it's going to be true. Otherwise, it's going to be false. So in the class name here, let's go ahead and use this new const that we have. Let's keep the class name separated. And then let's go is user. And let's add some class name for it. I'm going to say actually question mark. What do we want here? Yeah, flex row reverse. Instead of the question mark, we just put end. So we only add flex row reverse if we are the same user as the one who sent the actual message. So right now you can see that our messages always appear on the right, while other people's messages are always on the left. Hey there. How are you doing? Oh, and we can see we already run into another issue. Our messages are overflowing the chat container. Oh, this is not good. So let's go ahead and fix this as well. I'm going to the class name of the chat container, and let's just say overflow y scroll. Now the messages don't go out anymore, and I can see them if we scroll down a bit. But as you can see, whenever I send another message, the message goes down, but the scroll doesn't. So I need to fix this as well. Under our messages here, we're going to add a new div. This is going to be an invisible div that will always be at the bottom of our messages list. Always at bottom. So as you can see, we can see it here. If I type something, it's going to be below what I type. So always at the bottom. Now what we want to do with this div is actually use JavaScript to scroll to it automatically whenever the component refreshes. So I'm going to say const button div ref is equal to use ref, and let's initialize it with null. Once the div has rendered, we're going to say div ref equals button div ref. And now this button div ref will be the use ref for the div we need. For this use effect, let's create another one. And let's also make it run only on refresh. And then I'm going to say always scroll to this div. The way to do that is go ahead and take the const that we created, bottom div ref. Let's actually give this a type in order for TypeScript to not be mad about it. It's going to be either an HTML div element or null. So for the code, if bottom div ref dot current, which means if it exists, bottom div ref dot current dot scroll into view, call this function, and inside an object, give it behavior smooth. We want the scroll to be smooth. We don't want it to snap on the bottom. Let's go ahead and check if this works. I'm going to type a message, hit send, and as you can see, it's always scrolling down to it. Alright, but isn't it a bit weird to always have this text here? We only need to delete it. The div is still there, it's just invisible because it has no content. So now, this works like an actual chat, like you see on Facebook or Instagram. There is another thing that we can do to improve our app, and that is to hit enter and set the message when we hit enter, because of right now, we only click the send button. So in order to do that, let's go back to our chat app where we have our input. Over here on the input, I'm going to add another piece of code here that's gonna look like this. On key down, let me just make this better for you. We are going to take the event that's coming from it, and if the event.key is equal to enter, we are going to just call key.prevent default in the first place, and then we just handle send message. This is all the code we need for this to work. So I will hit enter right now, and the message sends. Perfect. This is awesome. So right now we have a basic chat app that users can authenticate with Google and send messages to each other. But here comes the fun part. Now it's your turn. Build your version of the UI, share your design on the Discord in the description, and let's go ahead and create a community. I will be waiting for you on the Discord. Thank you so much, and if you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to subscribe and like the video. This helps the channel grow. Thank you. FlashStack out.